Welcome to Geology, a channel dedicated to biology or the study of life. With the exams approaching, I'm sure all of you are preparing different types of questions, and hence I thought to bring to you this assertion and reasoning questions for the reproduction chapter. This is useful for especially for CBSE students of class 10. And in this video, we are going to look at how to solve these questions, and we will do a few questions together where I will also explain you why we have selected the answers that we do. Let's begin. To be able to get full marks in assertion and reasoning questions, you need to have a strategy before the exams and at the time of exams. Now, before exams, you need to revise the concepts very well because these questions are primarily for checking your concept understanding. And then there are 4 options, and sometimes it gets confusing. So the more and more you practice these questions, it becomes easy for you to crack them. Now, at the time of exams, when you get these questions, take time and read the questions thoroughly so that you are able to understand the sentences. And when you're doing so, read each of these statements independent of one another and try to check whether they are correct by themselves or true by themselves or not. If you find both of these questions true, then add the word because in between the two, and then see whether the sentence finally makes sense or not. And then if it still holds true, that means your assertion and reasoning are both correct and the reason is the right reason for the assertion statements. So that's how you really solve these questions, and in the process you will also see if both the questions are right but the reason is not true, then you have option 2. If both the questions are if both the statements are true but R is the correct explanation of A, then you have option A as the right answer. Or if one is true, that is A is true but R is false, then option C. And if A is false and R is true, then the option is D. So with this structure, which is the current prevailing structure for CBSE, let's solve a few questions together. Question 1. Yeast multiplies in sugar solution. Now in the lab, they use yeast, they grow yeast by putting yeast into sucrose solutions. Now reason: sugar solution or sucrose provides energy for sustaining all life activities. Yes, both the statements are correct, and then the reason is the reasoning statement is the right reason for the assertion, because the sugar solution is a nutrient medium which is being used in the lab, and the sugar provides energy for all the life processes of the yeast. Moving to the next question, assertion: asexual reproduction is a primitive type of reproduction. Reason: asexual reproduction involves only mitotic cell division. Again, both the statements are correct and R is the correct explanation of A. That is because mitosis is actually a simpler type of cell division. There are two types of cell divisions, mitosis and meiosis. Mitosis is much more simpler, whereas in meiosis there is a lot more happens, and it's a more elongated process with recombination of DNA, duplication of DNA, again halving of the chromosomes, and it's a more complicated process for which is used mainly in development of gametes. Whereas mitosis is a simple process of cell division. It does not involve any kind of DNA crossing over, and hence asexual reproduction uses mitosis, because in asexual reproduction there is no exchange of genetic material at all. Assertion: pollen grains from carpels stick to the stigma of stamen. Reasoning: the fertilized cells grow inside the ovules and become seeds. The answer is D, that is A is false, but R is true. A is false because there are two mistakes in this sentence. One, pollen grains from the carpel. Carpel is a female part. Pollen grains are the structures which carry the male gametes. So pollen grains cannot be formed on carpel. They are formed in the anther of the stamen. And then it says pollen grains stick to the stigma of the stamen. Pollen grains do travel from the anther to the stigma, but stigma is not a part of the stamen. Stamen is a male part. Stigma is a part of the female reproductive system. So pollen grains travel from the anther of the stamen to the stigma of the carpel or the pistil. Assertion: spore formation is a method of asexual reproduction and is used by both unicellular and multicellular organisms. So both bacteria as well as mucor, which is a fungus, reproduce by spore formation. Both A and R are true, and R is the correct explanation of A, because bacteria is unicellular and mucor fungus are multicellular, and they both reproduce by spore formation. Assertion: fragmentation refers to breaking up of the body of the simple multicellular organism. Well, this statement is true. Reasoning: planaria reproduces by fragmentation. Now this one is not true, because planaria reproduces by regeneration while Spirogyra reproduces by fragmentation. Now the difference between regeneration and fragmentation is that in fragmentation the body of the organism breaks into several parts, and then each part behaves like a new organism, and that's all. Whereas in case of regeneration, the body of the organism does break into different parts, but each part regenerates the part which is not present, and then the whole organism is formed. Assertion: the amount of DNA does not get doubled during sexual reproduction. This is correct. Reasoning: the gametes contain only half the amount of DNA or half the number of chromosomes. This is also correct, and this is the correct explanation for A. That is because gametes are a special type of cells, and during gamete formation, each gamete receives only half the number of chromosomes as that of the parent cell. Now, two gametes from two parents fuse together and form a zygote, and thus half the chromosomes come from one parent and the other half comes from the other parent, and then the total number is again restored. Assertion: sexual reproduction has no connection with origin of species. That's not right. And reasoning: sexual reproduction leads to variety in population. Well, this is correct, because sexual reproduction leads to a great variety of features in the population, and thus it promotes diversity. Now, when these variations accumulate over many generations and a long period of time, that leads to origin of new species. Assertion: adolescents experience growth of hair in the armpits. That is correct. Reasoning: sex hormones responsible for secondary sexual characters are produced during puberty. That's also correct, and that's actually the reason why the adolescents get the hair in the armpits. So puberty is attained by the adolescents in their early teens, and this is a time when the body produces various sex hormones, and these hormones are responsible, one, for development of the reproductive organs, and number two, for all the various secondary sexual characters. For example, development of hair in the armpits or in the pubic region, and the difference in the shape and structure of the body, development of breasts, and so many other secondary sexual characters. Assertion: testes are outside the abdominal cavity in the scrotum. Reason: Sperm formation requires lower temperature than body temperature. Both the statements are correct, and the reason is actually the correct explanation for the assertion. That is because the sperm formation requires a lower temperature than the body temperature. And now the scrotum are bag-like structures which hang outside of the abdominal cavity, and the scrotum contains the testis. So scrotum has about has a temperature of less than 3 degrees centigrade as compared to the body temperature, and thus this temperature makes it ideal for the production of sperms. Assertion: the time period from fertilization up to birth is called gestation. That's right. Reason: gestation for humans is 40 weeks, that is 9 months. This is also right. However, the reason is not the correct explanation of the assertion. That is because every species has a different gestation period, and that is not the reason as to why gestation happens. Gestation happens so that the different structures and organs and the body parts, they get formed when the baby is inside the mother's womb. So having solved these questions, I'm sure you have got the hang of how to handle these assertion and reasoning questions. And we have covered almost all the subtopics from this chapter in this session. Hope you find this useful, and if you do, then please do like. If you have any comments, if you have any questions or clarifications, or if you have questions other than these ones, then please write them in the comment section and I shall respond to you. Please do share the video and also subscribe to the channel. Thank you.